Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Now, Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn have confirmed that they are committed to working towards a Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua, and they are going to get to work on that right away. Now, we know the situation with mandatories. Obviously Anthony Joshua needed to deal with Kubrat Pulev, and there could be another potential stumbling block in Alexander Usyk, another mandatory over the WBO belt that Anthony Joshua holds. Now, Eddie Hearn said in his immediate reaction to Anthony Joshua's victory over Kubrat Pulev, do the WBO want to be part of the biggest fight in world boxing, or do they not? It's up to them. So does that mean they are looking to potentially vacate that title and just let Usyk fight Joe Joyce for the vacant title and let Anthony Joshua finally have his moment with a Tyson Fury? That could be what happens, but Anthony Joshua has expressed an interest in holding on to all of the belts and becoming undisputed in that fight with Tyson Fury if he were to win. So that is the goal. It is road to undisputed. So if they can keep a hold of all of the belts, then that is what they will do. Now of course that is going to come with a certain amount of problems, especially if they manage to hold on to the belt and don't allow Usyk to fight for it. Then in that situation, what do? Do they ask for an exception from the WBO? Which they can do, because the thing is about that situation is the WBO called their mandatory so Anthony Joshua had to face Alexander Usyk, but the IBF also called their mandatory, which was Kubrat Pulev. Pulev came first, but Chisora stepped in and fought Usyk to give Usyk that interim fight before the Anthony Joshua fight. So Usyk decided to do that so Anthony Joshua could go and face his IBF mandatory, which was Kubrat Pulev. So in that situation, Usyk decided to step aside and wait. There was no exception granted necessarily by the WBO, so perhaps that is still in motion. Anthony Joshua can ask for an exception to make a unification fight with a Tyson Fury. Then it lies with the WBO, it's up to them. Do they want their belt on the line for Anthony Joshua versus a Tyson Fury? It is entirely up to them. The ball is in their court. Now, the possibility that that happens could be quite slim. I think that the WBO will want Alexander Usyk to have his opportunity, considering he did wait for Anthony Joshua to face his IBF mandatory first and deal with those mandatories chronologically. Usyk is next, and that will potentially be the next fight of Anthony Joshua. That will be the biggest stumbling block in this fight. I think that Anthony Joshua wants to fight, Tyson Fury wants to fight, Bob Arum wants to make the fight, so does Eddie Hearn. Those are the most important things, but still there is something in the way. I mean, financials for this fight have already been agreed between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. The biggest stumbling block usually, 2 fights in 2021. So that has been agreed, and we knew that back in the summer. So this fight has been building and brewing for an extremely long time. The road to undisputed. Let's remember that. It is the road to undisputed. So for Tyson Fury, he wants to fight Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua wants to fight the WBC champion. So AJ is chasing the belts for the undisputed status. Whoever has the belt, he's going after. Is he going to want to relinquish a belt so that he can gain another one? Still, undisputed is out there for him to tackle, whether that be against the winner of Usyk versus Joyce, or whether they are able to find a resolution to this WBO situation. Obviously, Tyson Fury is the biggest fight for Anthony Joshua out there, and that is the fight that he does want. So Bob Arum and Eddie Hearn have declared that they are committed to making that fight happen. Now, Anthony Joshua has previously asked for an exception from a different governing body to make a unification, and it was to unify with the then WBO champion, which was Joseph Parker. Anthony Joshua was mandated to fight Luis Ortiz, which was his WBA mandatory. He asked for an exception so he could make a unification, which was against Joseph Parker. They made that fight. Anthony Joshua gained that WBO World Championship. Then, obviously, Luis Ortiz went and fought Deontay Wilder. So Anthony Joshua's next WBA mandatory was Alexander Povetkin, who he fought in September 2018. So there are ways that they can get around this. It's just whether the WBO are willing to play ball. And obviously the Tyson Fury fight will go ahead in that event. Or maybe they do relinquish a belt. Anthony Joshua is not going to be so keen on doing that, but that could be a decision that Anthony Joshua and his team, Eddie Hearn, have to make towards this Tyson Fury fight. Obviously, there are some other stumbling blocks as well. Financial terms have been agreed. Kubrat Pulev has been beaten, which is a mandatory of Anthony Joshua, but they still have to sort out this Deontay Wilder trilogy dispute between Tyson Fury and Wilder. They also have that Usyk mandatory, which we have spoken about, a UK-US broadcaster arrangement, because Anthony Joshua is on Sky Sports and DAZN, whereas Tyson Fury is on BT and ESPN, so that could be a stumbling block as well. Date and venue confirmation also is something that needs to happen. Eddie Hearn did explain that Anthony Joshua will fight in May and potentially November, December, so the dates look like they could be sorted. The broadcaster isn't going to be so easy. Obviously, they are on two completely different platforms with two completely different promoters. I think that the way to make the fight happen though is between Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum. They seem to have a good working relationship. Although they go back and forth sometimes, I think that their relationship is strong with making fights happen because I think that they have a common goal to put all of the egos aside and just ensure the big fights happen. That is why Tyson Fury will eventually fight Anthony Joshua, because these two will ensure it happens. They just need to sort out what broadcaster it is on. In the UK, whether it's Sky Sports or BT, or they share it, that is probably the best way to go, then split the pay-per-views. That is the most fair thing to do, just as in the fight with the financial terms, 50-50 agreed for the first fight, 60-40 in the second one. They don't necessarily need to do that with the broadcasters, just a 50-50, split it, even fair and square, just to make the fight happen. The broadcasters, the WBO, the mandatories, they have the ability to force this fight through. Let's see if they do. As I said, Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum do have a good working relationship in making fights happen because we've seen it with Anthony Joshua versus Kubrat Pulev. So that should make things easier considering they made the fight for Anthony Joshua to face Pulev, and that was in the UK. They sorted out all of the financial terms. Obviously with a mandatory there is a certain split anyway, but Anthony Joshua, we know, had a rematch clause in there with a Kubrat Pulev. That is not customary with a mandatory, so a separate deal was obviously made which wouldn't have been necessarily the mandatory split of what would have been if there was no rematch clause. That is what they can do. They have a certain period of time to make that kind of deal. That is what happened between Anthony Joshua and Pulev, which hopefully speaks well for the communication and the relationship between Top Rank and Matchroom Boxing, the promoters of Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. So hopefully this fight should happen next. It's down to them now. They have an opportunity to make the biggest fight in world boxing, the biggest fight maybe the UK has ever seen. I mean, they can do it in the UK, they can do it in Saudi, they can go where the most money is, but the important thing is that the fight happens, and I think that Bob Arum at Top Rank and Eddie Hearn at Matchroom will ensure the fight actually does happen this time, because we've been here before with Anthony Joshua trying to make Undisputed with Deontay Wilder. In that case it didn't happen. Hopefully this time around though, it does. Guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below, leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys.